Well, our guest today is Heather Avis. She's a mom, an author, and an advocate of inclusion. Her new book, Scoot Over and Make Some Room, encourages readers to make room for those society tends to exclude while demonstrating how Jesus always made room for the marginalized. Would you please welcome with me Heather Avis?
Thank you.
Hi, Heather. Great to see you. Well, you were a guest on Hour of Power in 2015.
Okay.
And I was wondering when that was, and it was so great. I think we talked to you and your husband about kind of your story. Let's tell it again for those who may not remember. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Sure. Yeah, it's a long story. I wrote a whole book about it, but I'll be quick. So my husband and I have been married for 17 years, and we have 3 kids. All 3 are adopted, and our oldest and our youngest have Down syndrome, and our middle child is a different ethnicity than me, so we just have a different kind of a makeup of our family. Yeah.
So see, one thing that's so amazing about that is very often a child with Down syndrome, for example, or a child with autism or some of these other special needs, very often when parents are adopting, maybe they don't feel like they're up for it or whatever, but those kids tend to be passed on often, don't they?
Definitely, and we were not initially planning on adopting a child with Down syndrome. God kind of catapulted us into that space. Again, it's a very long story for another conversation. Yeah.
But what you really want to tell us today is really what you've learned, you and your husband, in parenting. It's so interesting to me that like the third child, you already had a child with Down syndrome. You'd think your debt to society is paid, but you don't view it that way at all, right? It's been a blessing for you.
Oh man, so much so. And the thing when we first brought our oldest daughter, Mason, home, and we're just catapulted into this world of Down syndrome, and we realized real quickly that we had been missing out on an entire people group. People who have different abilities, made in the image of God, by God, on purpose, and therefore are showing a side of God that I had not seen if I had not been around them. And our eyes were opened up to how incredible people with different abilities are, and we were so thankful that we got to see that. And so when it came time to adopt our second child with different abilities with Down syndrome, it was a no-brainer.
See, and for so many people, they think, oh, I can't handle that. Right. But you guys really saw it as a blessing. And for sure, our son has some pretty severe special needs. And I can say there are definitely days you're just like, this is so hard. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can handle this. And very often we like to be noble, but and say, oh, but in truth, it really is ultimately a blessing. It's not, you sort of wish that your child didn't have Down syndrome, but at the same time, they're such a blessing to you, right?
Sure, and I actually would say that I would never wish my child didn't have Down syndrome. I'm so thankful.
That's good.
And what they've taught me is that sometimes hard is just hard. Hard is not bad. And when we're talking about people with different abilities, there's such a widespread in differences between different people who have special needs.
Yeah.
But I would never in a million years wish my kids didn't have Down syndrome. I believe it was God's intention and His purpose and a total gift to the world.
Wow, and I bet that view really helps a lot too, to just loving people as they are, not wishing they were different.
Absolutely, it's opened my eyes to see humanity and to see the world in such a fuller, richer way. It's been a gift.
Your message reminds me a little bit of Henry Nouwen, who was this professor at Harvard and at Yale and incredibly successful author. And at the end of his life, he decided, I'm going to spend my life at Lark Community with people with double special needs or double handicapped, I think he said at the time. And you could just see in these interviews how it wasn't faked. He wasn't trying to be a saint or religious. He just genuinely learned not only to love these kids that he was with, or they were actually adults, but I think to receive love from them. There was they didn't see the world through the lens that so many people do, and received such a deep love from these people.
Yeah,
right?
It's so true. And that's kind of the message of this book, the title, Scoot Over and Make Some Room, that God has shown me, and it has been such a gift and a privilege by doing life alongside people who are different than I am, the fullness of God. If we're not doing life with people who are different than us, who have different abilities, different ethnicity, vote differently, think differently, live differently than we do, then we're missing out on the fullness of God.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's such a great way to say it. You're missing out on the fullness of God. Do you feel, with having 2 children with special needs, do you feel marginalized? Do you feel like society marginalizes them? I know I do.
Man, that's such a great question. 100%. Yeah. And as their mom, even sometimes I'm trying to figure out, where do I fit? Where do I fit in? And I feel like a lot of the pressure to fit in and a lot of the pressure to make life work for my kids is on me, it's on them. And the message is, hey guys, this is for all of us. Your life will be better off if you have people around you who are different than you, if you make space in your life for people with different abilities. It's not just my job. I'm benefiting so greatly, but everyone has an opportunity to benefit from life with people who are different if they make the space.
That's right. And churches could do better at this too, don't you think?
Oh man, churches should be leading the way,
They
I
should
think.
be.
And
That's right.
and we're not, and it is unfortunate, but we have an opportunity to do that. And I think for church leaders, like, look around who's in your room. If there aren't people in your room with different abilities, then something's wrong.
That's really one of the things that has to happen, I think, is the culture of a church has to become hospitable,
Absolutely.
where it's okay for children or even adults with special needs to be disruptive, to
Yep.
have a way to have patience with that. I know we've had a lot of parents with children with autism who, the sound, they can't, so we're trying to find ways, well, how can we, through Hour of Power, or how can we do things even within the building? And I think churches ought to be asking these questions.
100%.
And I think you help churches do that in your book, and you really help people understand what a gift people with special needs are to our community, and how much they add, not take away.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, and it is, like I said, and I can say it 100 times, if we are not doing life with people with different abilities, we're missing out on the fullness of God. And if we are the church, then we're missing out on who God is fully. If we're not saying, you who respond, like someone who responds to the world differently and reacts to the world differently, that may feel like a disruption. It's not a disruption. It's another view of who God is. And if we invite those people into our lives and we adjust and we make space, maybe we change the volume of music, or we figure out, what do we need to do? Like, what can we do to scoot over, make room for people who are different than us? And we're going to be so much better for it.
That's right. And sometimes those disruptions, as you said, they're not really disruptions. Sometimes God is in the disruptions. Like when you read the
100%.
Gospels, like, we have all these perfect plans about what we're going to do in church or whatever, and very often it's the outside weird thing that happens that God's in, right?
Absolutely. And I think, you look at Jesus' whole life, and he basically came in and disrupted everything that was happening, like all the social norms. He disrupted all of those, and then brought people alongside him who had been marginalized, who had been outcast. This is what Jesus did. So that's what we should do too.
Well, it's a super encouraging book, and if you need to encourage a parent, or maybe somebody you think wants to be more outwardly focused in their life, or church leaders, or there's just so many people that I think could benefit from this book. We really want to encourage you guys. The book is called "Scoot Over and Make Some Room" by Heather Avis. Heather, thank you for all you do. We love you so much and appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
God bless you.